athletic fighter who has skills, is very tough, and he can punch. He has the feeling of an all-time great in his prime.
I don't come at people reckless. I take my time. I break my opponent down, and I am the sweet signs. Through the angles I box, I find people weaknesses and expose and use it.
I spent like 4 days in this camp. He still trains in the same R&R gym there up in North Dallas. It's kind of in a strip mall, really in the strip. It's usually about 100 degrees inside there. It's hot. Nothing flashy about it. And he will always say, I like it because it's dirty, it's gritty, and that's the way I fight.
Introducing the truth, Errol, Spence.
They never gave a nigga shit, so I had to rob. I was walking niggas down, they ain't have a car. Too fast, I get on your ass, you ain't getting far. Too sad, he was talking bad, now he in the stars. Who's that? We don't give a fuck, he ain't wanna boss. The car hit him high, yo, cold clear smart. Find you out, you a style, the guys living lost. Then, you know he ain't squashing no beef, no beef. My dog got dumped in the middle of the road. We leaving this shit in the street. Got some shorties outside, they lurking for me. They ain't lurking for free. Got some shorties outside, they won't go to sleep. What? Cause this how they eat. But lately I've been trying to be cool. Cause I know the kids, they watch what I do. And I know the feds, they watching my niggas, they stopping me. I'm sending this bitch to the moon. We see them boys fast, they give them a boom. This one for patrol. If he ain't seen his ass, you'll see him at noon. What? Put him on the news.
What keeps you hungry enough to remain a fighter? You're not gonna win to be the best. I'm not the best yet. A lot of people have high expectations of me being the best, but I'm not. Your goal is pound for pound best.
Then, you know he ain't squashing no beef, no beef. My dog got dumped in the middle of the road. We leaving this shit in the street. Got some shorties outside, they lurking for me. They ain't lurking for free. Got some shorties outside, they won't go to sleep. What? Cause this how they eat.
All right, and we are live. What is up, YouTube boxing family? It is I, Kieran Rodriguez, aka Mr. KRAD 7435. We are back at it once again for another fighter ratings number 5 for Mr. Errol, the true Spence Jr. And obviously, I just want to dedicate this live to fellow YouTube mutual friend, I would say, or a mutual person that had passed away. I wanted to say rest in peace to Gary Russell's brother, Batman. That's what people called him. I believe his real name was John Page, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not too sure about that. But for anybody that is watching from Gary Russell's stable, I just wanted to send my condolences out to Batman, and I believe also Gary Russell's father as well. I believe Gary Russell's father had now recently passed away himself. So I just want to say rest in peace to both of those guys. Just like to say, Batman, you were a very nice, respectable person that I, enjoyed talking with. And I enjoyed listening to you have very funny conversations with people back and forth over boxing, even if you disagreed, and you created drama out of it for the sake of entertainment. Those are the funny days, and it's just gonna suck not seeing you anymore on here. So I just want to say rest in peace to Batman. And I hope everything's well with Gary Russell's family. So that's about it. Let's move on with fighter ratings number 5. with the one and only Mr. Errol, the true Spence Jr., also known as the big fundamental in boxing. Um, you know, for those of you that don't know who Errol is, um, Errol, he is a fighter that was born out of Long Island, New York, but he had moved out to Dallas to live his lifestyle out there. So I guess for anybody that wants to claim him as a, as a Texas guy at DeSoto, Texas, not Dallas. I'm sorry, but yeah, like y'all can say that, but I would say EJ. He's from New York, so New Yorkers claim him as well. But yeah, Errol the True Spence Jr., currently 32 years old. He is a southpaw, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach, and he is 28 and 0, 22 knockouts. He has a 78.57 knockout ratio. He's been professional since 2012, leading up to 2022, so roughly 10 years. He has boxed over 142 rounds professionally, and he is currently the unified WBA, WBC, um, W or IBF welterweight champion of the world. So yeah, he's a very, very tremendous talent. For those of you that don't know, he had recently defeated and brutally stopped Yordenis Ugas, the former WBA world champion, and he basically stopped him through a doctor stoppage where he had destroyed Ugas's orbital eye bone in like in a devastating fashion where he was able to defeat him in a high level performance victory to become the unified welterweight champion of the world. And Errol Spence is the man that everyone wants him to be the king of the welterweight division. Obviously, there is one fight left between him and Terrence Crawford, and hopefully that fight can be made. But Errol Spence is doing what he said he wanted to do. He's gonna get his stuff or get his belts on his side of the street, and he has his final mission set towards Terrence Crawford, where he will be the final target for welterweight supremacy and undisputed legacy. So yeah, let's get right to it. If you guys want to join, here is the link pinned above. So be sure to join in if you guys want to join in. I'm pretty sure I will have a good number of Errol Spence fans coming in. So I'll probably have a very good, peaceful live stream. So be sure to click the link if you guys want to hop in and have a good talk. So yeah, this is how I usually do it for every single fighter ratings. This is how we usually go. But yeah, all 9 of my topics go by the topics of the eye tests, boxing ability, ring IQ, footwork, defensive ability, chin, the ability to take a good shot, power, intangibles, and then finally the strength of resume. So yeah, yeah, this is gonna be a good one. I always have a lot of fun, discuss some fighter ratings. So yeah, if you guys wanna, hop right in, feel free. I'm gonna have a good time, doing this solo bolo. So yeah, let me get my document ready, and yeah, we will get this show up on the road. So all right. So for the very first topic, we have our topic for the eye tests. How do I rate EJ's eye tests? Errol Spence's eye test is very, very good. Um, for what I see out of Errol Spence's eye test is that he shows a lot of how should I say? He shows a lot of great skills in the ring, and he's very, very technical with how he fights to the point where you know what you're going to expect out of him. And he has a very, very high level of pressure and determination when he gets inside a fight with you. And the good thing about Errol Spence is that he never backs down from a challenge. And every fight that you see out of him, he makes it into a very, very destructive, hard fight. A lot of people think just based off of the eye test, he's a very, very low level fighter. He only just comes one way, but that's obviously furthest from the truth or furthest, from that statement. But the problem is that a lot of people don't understand how destructive he does fight. He really fights very, very technical, and he has such a good walk you down type of southpaw style, which not a lot of southpaws do. Some southpaws like to be a boxer puncher. Other southpaws like to be a pressure fighter puncher type of style, and some other southpaws like to be a very how should I say awkward um, awkward, multi-adaptive type of pure boxer, semi-volume puncher type of southpaw. But what I would rate EJ's eye test is a solid 10 out of 10. I think Errol Spence had deserved to be a 10 out of 10 ever since he debuted through the PBC or wherever. I mean, honestly, his ceiling has been high since day one. Nobody can ever say that he was ever, a weak fighter or he had a lot of deficiencies coming into the pros. He's always done a good job making himself known, and every time when he goes out to perform, he's just on that 110% level where you can't match him. He's always getting better, and he's always bringing himself to higher levels to be the best that he can be. So yeah, I'm definitely giving that a 10 out of 10. And salute to you, uncommentary. You also rate EJ a 10. So I will put that on my notes as well. And be sure to come right in. If you guys want to come talk it out with me, if you have disagreements and you guys want to talk about it, feel free. Hit the link and I will bring people on, but just make sure that you're not like a troll. Like if you are coming on, just turn on like your camera and then turn it off, and then I can, be like safe enough to bring people on. I don't like to bring trolls on, but yeah, either way, 10 out of 10 for me. That's my first grade for Errol Spence, and yeah, I think like that's pretty much like enough of what I had to say about him. But yeah, 10 out of 10 for the eye test. The second topic is the boxing ability. Boxing ability, I'm gonna have to give that a. Mm, I don't know. It's gonna be really hard, but I'd say a solid 9.5. Um, I think Errol Spence, he's a very very good boxer, and the way he boxes, it's not like a type of boxing ability to the level of like him being hyper flashy, and he has all these great angles and all these great reads and multiple adaptive movements where he makes it very difficult for you to hit him. No, he's a very simple, basic fundament or big fundamentalist type of, standard level boxer. And I think every time when you see him fight, he fights very, very indirect. And it may look like he's fighting one dimensional, but he's really not. He's actually fighting very multi adaptive, and he uses a very good strategy to make his boxing ability very difficult to figure out. Um, I think the biggest problem with Errol Spence is that he doesn't need to display his high level, skills. And I think when you see him fight, it may look like he is just fighting very basic and very ordinary, but in the end, he's actually a very difficult fighter to figure out. And he makes it difficult because he doesn't need to fight any more different than to just say, all right, look, you may think you're going to be all flashy to me, but the only thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to come towards you and I'm going to offset you and make the fight my fight. And that's what's so interesting about Errol Spence because he's such a intelligent fighter when it comes to just breaking down the opponent's mental fortitude. And then once it comes to like a physical battle, that's where Errol Spence he really displays that dog in him. He he really does what he has to do to be that type of fighter, to make you very uncomfortable and very nervous, because a lot of these like punches that you see out of Errol Spence, they may not look like that they're actually hurting somebody, but at the end of the day, he's actually brutally destroying you. And I think that's the great thing about Errol Spence's boxing ability. He doesn't need to display it because he's already coming in to do damage, number one. And then number two, you have such a good, desirability to make the fight your fight, that you don't even need to make your boxing ability any more perfect than to just say, all right, look, I'm just coming one way. You may want to move off, to your left, so that way you can get me off guard. But what's so good about Errol Spence is that no matter what you try to do to try to make it your fight, he just comes to your fight and then he breaks you down while he's standing right in front of you. And I say like a good example of that would be that one fight against that Mexican dude. I forgot what his name was, but he ended up stopping him. But every time that Mexican dude just kept on trying to like back up forward, trying to like, position his feet to like get away from Errol Spence, he just kept on coming forward to him. You know what I'm saying? Like Errol Spence was like just literally stuck, like he literally had his feet positioned the same way as his opponent did, and he was just breaking him down collectively to the point where he just looked like a, like honestly, like his opponent just looked like a broken amateur. He just got beat up so bad to the point where he just got, annihilated. And I think that was the Alejandro Barrera fight. And I'm not really too high off of, a lot of Mexican fighters that fight at welterweight, but Barrera, he's a good, decent, like, decent fighter. Um, Unfortunately, he's been stopped, in the past. He's only been stopped twice, and that was only to Israel Madrimov and Errol Spence. But ever since then, he's just been doing pretty decent. Just every like the rest of his last 4 out of 6 losses all went to a decision. But his last ever fight was to Israel Madrimov, where Israel, he knocked him out really bad. But yeah, either way, I mean, like it just pretty much shows like no matter what type of style that Errol Spence fights, he just comes in to, decimate you, and I like that out of him because Errol Spence, he like he's done such a great job by making every single style a different style, and his boxing ability has displayed to a high level to the point where he makes it look too easy. So I would say for boxing ability, um, definitely a 9.5. That's my final grade for him. I think he very well deserves it. And that's only because, he doesn't need to display his boxing ability to a higher standard. So definitely a 9.5 for me. For the next topic, we got ring IQ. See, now for ring IQ, I'm gonna label this, or I'm gonna rate this a solid 10 out of 10. I think Errol Spence's ring IQ is just super underrated. A lot of people don't understand how well he actually fights, and every single shot that he sees and every single punch that's being thrown onto him, he just knows how to make everything his fight. And he's such a good multi-adaptive reader to the point where he just immobilizes you very bad, and he makes he makes up the fight look way too easy. um the ring IQ, as far as making adjustments in the ring during a fight, that's a very, very good solid 10. Simply for the fact that if you look back at the fights with Sean Porter or a fight with Leonard Bundu, every time when he got hurt, Errol Spence just basically kept on holding every time when a shot was, heavily landed onto him. And then on top of that, he just made the fight a lot easier to the point where he doesn't need to facilitate himself to a position where he's going to get, potentially knocked out. He does a very good job knowing what he has to do, in the fight alone. And whenever he's in a position where he could take somebody to deep waters and he could win the fight simply based off of, you know, just, out dogging and out muscling his opponents and out thinking them. That's what makes Errol Spence such a very good fighter in terms of what he has to do to win the fight. I've really never seen Errol Spence have a fight where he doesn't use his ring IQ. His ring IQ has always been high, and he's always done a very good, phenomenal job of facilitating himself to the level of him being successful. And I respect that out of him because not a lot of fighters can really think like that while they're under pressure. And I think the biggest issue with a lot of fighters these days is that they're too afraid of getting put into that deep water situation where they're super tired and then they're hurt at the same time. And guys like Errol Spence, he just teaches you, like the big fundamentals of what to do when you're in a tough situation and how to finish off situational problems where you're able to prioritize yourself for for the victory. So I'm definitely rating that a solid 10 out of 10. Errol Spence, he's definitely a very, very underrated fighter when it comes to his ring IQ. So I think a 10 out of 10 is respectable in that grade alone. Now for the next topic is the footwork. The footwork, I'm gonna have to give this. I don't even know, man. I'd like to give this another solid 9.5. I don't think his footwork needs to be like the flashiest, but it's like good enough to the point where his feet are just positioned at the right spot for him to win a fight. So I definitely do respect that out of him. I like seeing that, out of him where he facilitates his feet to the proper, angle so that way he doesn't need to get caught up into something that he shouldn't get caught up into. And every time when he is hurt, he always has his feet positioned at the at the right angle, so that way he's right there to like hold somebody if he needs to get like a breather in, so that way he could get back into the motion of winning the fight. But yeah, his footwork is still like a good solid 9.5. He's done a good job making his feet good enough to the point where it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be flashy, but he has such a good movement of making the fight his fight to the point where he doesn't need to try that hard to win because he already has like the fight in the bag when his feet are already educated enough for him to be at the right moments to sit down on his punches and to make himself more effective in prioritizing his offensive ability. So footwork is a good solid 9.5. Salute to you, Omega Red. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate you. But yeah, footwork, that's a good solid 9.5. That's what I'm gonna give him. Now, for the next topic is the defensive ability. Defensive ability. Um, I would probably rate this a good solid like 9.75. I think his defense could be a little bit tweaked here and there, but it's perfect defense, or it's closest to a semi-perfect level of defense where you're you don't have to make it super duper fancy, but once you put yourself in a position to make your defensive ability effective, you don't need to be super flashy with it. So his defense is very polished. He has a very, very good understanding of where to be when he's in the red zone and then where not to be when he's in the green zone. So I think, honestly, he's done a very good job to make his defense very noticeable. And I definitely do, appreciate that out of him because, the good thing about him is that, he's done a good job by prioritizing himself to not get hit a lot. Some people like to say, he is there to get hit. I don't really see it to be that way. I think honestly, how he fights, he doesn't need to fight to a level of putting himself in deep waters. But I think he's already done a very good job making himself successful to win. and he doesn't really need to put himself in any more deeper positions. But either way, I'm definitely giving the defensive ability a solid 9.75. He's definitely done a good job making himself successful in all of his toughest fights, and I definitely have to credit him for that. So I think that's honestly, like, that's a good thing to do, and I definitely respect that out of him because Errol Spence is the truth for a reason, and he's done everything right. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely keep that a 9.75 on my end. But yeah, let's get off with the defense and let's head over to the chin, the ability to take a good shot. I'm gonna give this a solid 10 out of 10. He's never been down in his career. He has been hurt, but he's never been how should I say, down per se, to put himself in a improper position to get knocked down. That would be subject to change if he were to fight like a guy like Terrence Crawford, and let's just say Crawford catches him with something that he didn't see, and then I'd be like, all right, Crawford was able to put him down, but I don't see that happening. I think Errol Spence has proven himself to be at that level where you can't hit him that hard enough to knock him down, and his chin is like already made to be built with steel and everything that his physical nature gives him. And I mean, before anybody tries to come in here and say like, "Oh well, his chin is not as good as it once was. Think about like the accident, blah blah blah." No, his chin is absolutely fine. It's just that the thing is that a lot of people try to put him in this in this bubble to think that Errol Spence, he's like in this position where he needs to be in dogfights to prove that his chin is good. But that's obviously not how boxing works. Your chin is determined by the late game function of your physical capacity to take a good shot. And if you're not able to take a good shot, then that's where your chin factors in. So the problem with this is that people want to say Errol Spence is not able to take a good punch because people put him in this position or this realm to say um, he can't he can't fight the way he used to be because of the car accident. But that's obviously not true because Errol Spence, he is able to take good punches and he could still walk you down to win the fight. So I mean, I think either way, Errol Spence, he's good. He's good in his own respectable right to be the best at what he can be, and that's something that that I've always given or gave him credit for. So that's something that I've always respected out of EJ, and I think that's something that not a lot of people want to give him credit for. But yeah, for the Chen, I'm definitely giving that a solid 10 out of 10. I think he deserves it. He's proven himself time and time again that it takes a lot of shots to even try to think that you're gonna hurt him to the point where you think you may knock him out or knock him down. But his chin is already proven to be a titan at this point. So I think Errol Spence's chin is just beyond supreme. So that's a solid 10 out of 10 for me. Um, Now let's go on with the power. The power. Uh, hmm. Power. I'm gonna have to give it another 10 out of 10. Uh, he's your traditional boxer puncher southpaw, and he's already done good things enough in the sport where he's just too good. He's too good enough, of a boxer to not display his power. And I think his power is just there, just to be used as an added medium. He's very, very good at facilitating his shots by boxing before he starts power punching. That's a good thing about Errol Spence. That's something that I've always respected out of him. but Errol Spence's dog as a fighter, using that power, really makes him a very, very deadly puncher. Um, Obviously, people want to say, "Oh, well, he hasn't stopped that many people within his past years of going through the accident and then going through eye surgery," which, that's true. But at the same token, if we had Errol Spence fully healthy leading up to the Sean Porter fight, he would have definitely stopped Sean Porter if he was able to fight the fight that he wanted to fight, not fight Sean Porter's fight. To which some people want to say, like, Sean Porter, he was winning that fight, but there was like no way that Errol Spence was ever losing that fight. But Sean Porter could have easily been stopped by Errol Spence at that time frame. And then Danny Garcia, the same thing. Errol Spence was not he was not his full best version of him. So Danny Garcia was, at the position where he thought Errol Spence was going to be vulnerable enough for him to, get tired out or get knocked out. But obviously, Errol Spence, he came to fight and he gave Danny a destructive beatdown, and Errol Spence came close to stopping him at times, which was very, very well true. But then leading up to Ugas, we obviously knew that this is a Errol Spence that was fully prepared for all 12 rounds, and he was at the prime of his physicality. So Errol Spence at that version, I think his power pretty much shows. It's a solid 10 out of 10. So that's how I really see it. I think Errol Spence has like one of the heaviest hands in the welterweight division, and he can definitely hit you hard enough to get you his respect, and he can very well knock you out. People think that he doesn't have any power. His power is just volume punching power, but I disagree. Like, power isn't determined by the amount of knockouts that you have. Guys like William Zepeda, he has power, but his power is not educated power. It's not power against at the top tier level competition where you got guys that have granite chins or iron level chins to the point where they felt shots before and it never stunned them. That's not how power is measured. Power is measured through the dexterity of taking the shot and how your power ends up hurting the opponent late game. And then on top of that, it's also determined based off of the amount of damage that you put onto an opponent's body, because that power carries over to a late game situation where you're able to hurt and decimate your opponents to a certain level of you being successful. So power is really not only just about getting knockouts, it's about the amount of damage that you apply to your opponent over time to make that power known to actually hurt somebody. So power is a 10 out of 10. He can crack, he can knock people out, and he doesn't play around with his food. When he sees you hurt, he will knock you out. Errol Spence has proven to be one of the deadliest punchers in the welterweight division, next to Danny Garcia and maybe Terrence Crawford, but I don't put Terrence Crawford in that same category because Crawford's never beat any prime version elite welterweights, and I think Errol Spence, if he were to be stopped by Crawford, that would be the third or second best puncher in the welterweight division. But either way, I'm definitely giving it a solid 10 out of 10. Errol Spence has proven to me to be the best puncher with his power in the welterweight division, and he's just too good. He already knows how to put himself in that, in those spots to be successful. Um, I think honestly, everything that people say about him, to say that he's not good in this department or that department, that just gives more motivation for him to be more dangerous, to the level of him doubting his haters, and he just makes himself look a lot more destructive every time he comes back to the ring. So just imagine that Errol Spence is fully healthy and he's back. He's back in the ring as soon as possible. That's a very dangerous person. So I think Road to Undisputed will definitely show what he's about. So that's a 10 out of 10 for the power. Let's talk about the intangibles. The intangibles is very interesting. Errol Spence's intangibles are very, very high. Oh, and by the way, salute to you, Opulent LD. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you guys for coming through, even though that I don't have people coming to like my channel, knowing that I have like 700 people subscribed. But yeah, man, I appreciate doing these things, alone at times. But I always have like a fun time, just sitting back, try to do the best I can to give you guys what you guys want, and I just have fun with it, man. But yeah, let's go off with the second to last few topics. We have the intangibles. Intangibles, I'm gonna have to give him another 10 out of 10. I think Errol Spence has proven himself to be that guy to make his intangibles very, very known, and he definitely knows what he's doing in there to be the best of who he is. And I don't think that we've seen like the best version of Errol Spence yet. I think what a lot of people don't want to talk about is Errol Spence's, grind to be the best of who he is. And I think what he shows himself to be is what we're going to expect him to be heading down to the final stages of his career. But either way, I think his intangibles are 10 out of 10, grade level. He hasn't shown any deficiencies to the point where it makes you not believe in him or makes you think that he needs to slow down because his age is catching on to him. But I don't see it to be like that. I see Errol Spence to be a very, very dangerous level fighter. And he just proves that every time he walks into the ring and out the ring. But yeah, I would say that's a solid 10 out of 10 for the intangibles department. Now for the final department, we have the strength of resume, and I don't need to explain it any much further. But I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. His resume is absolutely destructive. He is the best of who he is, and he's done some very, very good things. He's been very, very successful in every single fight that people thought he was never good in. Um, his notable victories have been shown every time he's stepped up in competition. Um, I say, out of all of his fights he has been in, the best fights that I will rate Errol Spence's high level resume notable wins would be the Chris Algieri fight. That was a good ass fight. He knocked his ass out in 5. Uh, Kell Brook, obviously, that was an amazing fight. He went over to the UK, came in as a massive underdog, and he stopped him in 11 rounds, in which he was actually winning that fight too. So Errol Spence was already coming in with a hot-headed mentality to just annihilate Kell Brook. And then leading into the following year, he stopped Lamont Peterson, which that should have been a unification, but for some weird reason, the WBA stripped him for some bullshit, reason that made no sense whatsoever. But from what I heard, he was supposed to face Lamont Peterson for 2 belts, so therefore he would have had more leverage coming into Crawford, because if you think about it, he would have had 2 belts, and then leading into the WBC, he would have had the WBC gateway fight with Sean Porter or Terrence Crawford, because Crawford could have easily went into 147 going for the WBC belt, but obviously he knew who was going to be in front of him heading into that fight, whether if it was going to be Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, or Errol Spence. So I think that's why Crawford he didn't want the smoke with EJ, because he figured, hey, let EJ go through all this heavy lifting, and then I go through the easy route by not fighting Errol Spence, and then I'm gonna fight weak ass competition to think that I'm gonna be ready for him. But nah, Lamont Peterson is a notable victory, and Lamont Peterson was the dark horse in the welterweight division. He was knocking guys out pretty stellar. He obviously got most of his wins through unanimous decision, but his knockout ratio isn't as high that people wanted it to be. But he can definitely hit hard. He's definitely proven that to be his highly credible, like, how should I say, his highly credible, on resemblance in the welterweight division and the super lightweight division. So yeah, that's a big win for Errol Spence. Mikey Garcia, I would definitely rate this as a good victory. He faced pretty much like back to back undefeated fighters after the Lamont Peterson victory. So the Carlos Ocampo and the Mikey Garcia, those are very, very good wins. And I think obviously Mikey Garcia is at the biggest win because Mikey Garcia, he came up from like 135 all the way up to 147. Well, he moved up like two weight divisions or three weight divisions, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a good notable victory. Even though Mikey Garcia, he's not a career welterweight, but still, that's still a good victory, and that's a very good notable win on his resume. The Sean Porter fight, obviously, very good high level victory. I'm definitely rating that to be 10 out of 10 for that. And obviously, Danny Garcia and Ugas, those are all multiple world championship level fighters. He's fought pretty much 7, 8 maybe with Chris Van Heerden, even though I wouldn't count the IBO as a real title. But I mean, if you want to, let's do that. And then after that, yeah, I mean, he's fought over 8 world champions, but out of those 8 world champions, 4 of those fights were extremely tough for him. The Lamont Peterson fight, the Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, and your Dennis Ugas. So that's a very, very good high level victory. Well, I would actually make it 5. Kell Brook too. So yeah, that's a 10 out of 10, bro. Yeah, you've really proven yourself to be the best. Wait, hold on. Let me count this up. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Yeah, so that's a 10 out of 10. Let me get my calculator, and we will get this all calculated up. But yeah, that was a pretty good show. I personally had a lot of fun discussing this, and I'll definitely put it on my community page for those of you that will be watching. So that will be fun. And yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. Um, Definitely like to do this again. Hopefully, if we can get more people, to the channel, and then we could actually have you know, higher populated streams where people can join in on the panel and have some fun. But either way, I already have fun as it is now to do the shows by myself. So I mean, that's just how I go. I mean, I really don't care like how many people do watch or don't watch because I automatically do better anyway, when people aren't really watching. But either way, I just have fun with it. But yeah, give me 1 second, and then we will be on our way to getting out of here. But yeah, man, I had a lot of fun. It was a pretty fun show, and hopefully, we can do this again. Don't know who I want to do next, but I think we're obviously gonna have some fun topics later on in the future. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, divide that by 10. All right, good. All right, we got a final number, and Errol Spence, Errol the Truth Spence Jr. comes out to be a solid. Hold on, give me 1 second. Um, After tallying up all the numbers, yep, here we go. Comes out to be a solid 9.8. So that was like all the numbers that I tallied up on my notes, and yeah, that's the final score for Mr. Errol the Truth Spence Jr. And yeah, that was a pretty fun live. I had a lot of fun doing this, and yeah, like I found it very shocking that I had a pretty high number for him. But either way, like it's probably not surprising anyway because Errol Spence he put in all the hard work and dedication to get there. So I hope he can get that fight with Terrence Crawford and he can brutally knock him out. And we could see greatness in front of our eyes with Errol Spence. So yeah, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Much love and respect to everybody that came through. And yeah, man, on to the next one. I will put my community post for who do you guys want me to do next for next week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Salute to the mighty LDBC, and salute to Errol, the Truth Spence Jr., and the rest of his team with Derek James and everybody else that's connected with him. And on top of that, whatchamacallit, rest in power and rest in peace to Batman and Gary Russell's father. So, yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, this is Kieran Rodriguez, aka KRAS1435, signing out. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thank you and goodbye.